Captain Ji-won Park stood on the bridge of the UES Taeguk, watching the stars through the main viewport. The ship was humanity's finest diplomatic vessel, equipped with the best technology Earth could build. Ji-won had commanded this ship for 5 years, traveling between human colonies and alien worlds to keep peace in their corner of the galaxy. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of engines. Her crew worked at their stations, monitoring the ship's systems as they traveled through hyperspace. Dr. Minho Kim sat in the diplomatic section, reading reports from the latest trade negotiations with the Centauri Federation. Commander Hyun Lee checked weapon systems, though they rarely needed them on diplomatic missions. Engineer Sola Choi worked in the engine room, making sure their advanced human drives ran perfectly. Everything seemed normal until the emergency alarm rang through the ship. Captain called Communications Officer Daeho from his station. "We're getting a priority transmission from Nexus Prime. It's from the Galactic Council." Ji-won felt a cold worry in her stomach. The Galactic Council rarely contacted humans directly. When they did, it usually meant trouble. "Put it on the main screen." The view screen flickered and showed a tall, crystalline being with blue light flowing through its transparent body. Ji-won recognized the species, a hegemony representative named Veltar. The alien's voice came through the speakers, translated into human language by their computers. "Captain Park of the human vessel Taeguk," Veltar said. "By order of the Galactic Council, you are commanded to transport your diplomatic representative to Nexus Prime immediately. An emergency session has been called to review humanity's territorial claims in the Orion Arm." Dr. Kim looked up from his reports, his face serious. "Review our territorial claims? We've done nothing wrong." Veltar continued as if he hadn't heard. "Your species has exceeded acceptable expansion parameters. The Council will determine which systems must be returned to proper galactic governance. You have 72 standard hours to arrive at Nexus Prime. Failure to comply will result in enforcement action." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in tense silence. "Enforcement action?" Hyun said. "That sounds like a threat." Ji-won walked to the center of the bridge. "Sola, how fast can we get to Nexus Prime?" 60 hours if I push the engines," came Sola's voice through the intercom. "But Captain, this doesn't feel right." "Why now?" Dr. Kim stood and joined them. "She's right to be suspicious. I've been monitoring Council communications for months. There's been no mention of any problems with human expansion. Our colonies follow all the established rules. Then why are they calling us in?" Ji-won asked. Hyun pulled up a star map on his console. "Look at this. 3 weeks ago, our survey teams found quantum crystals in the Kepler 442 system. Those crystals could change everything. Faster ships, better communications, more powerful weapons. You think this is about the crystals?" Dr. Kim asked. "Has to be," Ji-won said. "The Council has controlled rare resources for centuries. They don't like it when younger species find something valuable." Sola's voice came through the speakers again. "Captain, I'm seeing something strange in the Council's transmission. The quantum signature is different from their usual technology. It's almost like they're using older, less efficient systems." Dr. Kim frowned. "That's impossible. The Council species are supposed to be ancient and advanced. Are they?" Ji-won asked. "Or do they just want us to think that?" She walked back to her command chair. "Daeho, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them about the Council's summons. Then contact all human colonies in the Orion Arm. I want to know if anyone else has received threats." Over the next few hours, reports came in from across human space. The Council had indeed demanded that humanity give up 7 star systems, including their most valuable worlds. New Busan, with its perfect farming conditions, was on the list. So was Kepler 442 with its quantum crystals. The mining worlds of Titan's Hope and New Sol were also marked for return to proper governance. "Return to whom?" Hyun asked angrily. "Those systems were empty when we found them. We built everything there." Dr. Kim studied the Council's demands carefully. "This isn't about law or proper governance. Look at what they want, our richest worlds, our most strategic locations. They're trying to cripple human expansion." "Maybe they're afraid of us," Sola said as she joined them on the bridge. "Human technology has been advancing fast. Our ships are more efficient than most Council designs. Our weapons are more accurate. Our computers are smarter." Ji-won nodded. "I've noticed that too. When we trade with other species, they're always interested in our technology. But the Council species never want to trade. They just demand tribute." "Captain," Daeho called out, I'm getting reports from our embassy on Nexus Prime. Ambassador Chen says the council has been in emergency session for days. They're not just talking about humanity. They're discussing the younger species problem. What younger species problem? Dr. Kim asked. Us, Ji-won said simply. Humanity, the Centauri Federation, the free traders of Rigel. All the species that have grown powerful in the last few centuries. The council doesn't like competition. Hyun checked his tactical display. Captain, I'm seeing movement in council space. At least 50 ships from different species all heading toward the border of human territory. Ji-won felt that cold worry again, but this time it came with anger. They're planning to take our worlds by force if we don't surrender them. What do we do? Dr. Kim asked. Ji-won looked around at her crew, good people who had served humanity well across the galaxy. They deserved better than to be bullied by aliens who thought they owned the stars. We go to Nexus Prime, she said. We listen to their demands, and then we tell them exactly what humanity thinks about giving up our homes. And if they don't like our answer? Sola asked. Ji-won smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. Then they'll learn something about humans that they should have known before they threatened us. We don't back down from bullies. We never have, and we won't start now. She turned to Daeho. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them the situation and request instructions. But also tell them this, humanity has never surrendered to threats before. I don't think we should start now. The UES Teguk changed course toward Nexus Prime, its advanced human engines pushing the ship faster than most alien vessels could travel. Behind them, across human space, colonies and fleets began preparing for whatever the Galactic Council had planned. In her ready room later that night, Ji-won looked at pictures of human colonies, families building new lives on distant worlds, children playing under alien suns, farmers growing food on planets that had been barren for millions of years. The Council wanted to take all of that away. Not while I'm still breathing, she said to the empty room. The ship jumped to hyperspace, racing toward a confrontation that would change the galaxy forever. The ring world of Nexus Prime stretched across space like a massive metal hoop around a dying star. Dr. Minho Kim had seen it many times before, but it still impressed him. The structure was thousands of kilometers wide and housed billions of beings from across the galaxy. It was the center of galactic government, and today it would decide humanity's fate. The UES Teguk docked at one of the smaller ports reserved for younger species. Dr. Kim noticed that the human ship looked small and simple compared to the massive alien vessels around them, but he also noticed that their ship looked newer and cleaner than most of the others. Ready for this? Captain Ji-won asked as they prepared to leave the ship. As ready as anyone can be for a rigged trial, Dr. Kim replied. He carried a small case with all of humanity's legal documents and evidence. He doubted the council would care about any of it. The council chamber was built to make visitors feel small. The ceiling rose hundreds of meters above the floor, and the walls were covered with symbols from ancient alien civilizations. Seats for council members surrounded a small platform in the center where Dr. Kim would have to stand. As he walked to the platform, Dr. Kim saw the council members taking their places. Thex Moran floated in a tank of green liquid, his tentacles moving slowly as he studied the human with ancient eyes. The Primarchs were the oldest species in the galaxy, and Thex Moran had lived for over 1,000 years. Zilnara represented the collective, a species of insect-like beings who shared a single mind across billions of bodies. She made clicking sounds that the translators turned into words, but Dr. Kim always felt like something was lost in the translation. Gorthak was a living mountain of stone and metal, one of the Silicon Dominion. His people had built most of the Council's technology, and they were proud of their engineering skills. He looked at Dr. Kim like he was examining a broken machine. Other council members filled the remaining seats, beings of energy, gas, crystal, and forms that Dr. Kim couldn't even understand. They all had one thing in common. They looked at humanity with suspicion and distrust. Dr. Kim of the human species. Thex Moran's voice echoed through the chamber. You stand before the Galactic Council to answer for your species' violations of established territorial law. Dr. Kim activated his translation device and began to speak, but something felt wrong. The words coming from the speakers didn't sound exactly like what he had said. They sounded more aggressive, more demanding. The accusations against humanity are serious, Zilnara clicked. Reckless expansion beyond approved limits. Refusal to share advanced technology with established species. disruption of trade routes that have existed for millennia. With respect, Dr. Kim said carefully, humanity has followed all territorial agreements. Our expansion has been approved by the proper authorities. We have shared our medical advances and agricultural techniques with any species that requested them. But again, his words came out wrong through the speakers. Instead of sounding reasonable, he sounded arrogant and dismissive. Gorthak rumbled like an earthquake. You humans build your cities without considering the impact on established trade. Your ships move through space lanes without proper authorization. Your colonies consume resources that could be better managed by experienced species. Dr. Kim tried to explain that human colonies had actually improved the planets they settled. They had turned dead worlds into gardens, built cities that worked with local environments, and created new trade opportunities for everyone. But the translation system made his explanations sound like excuses. The trial continued for hours. Each council member presented evidence against humanity, but Dr. Kim began to notice something strange. Much of their evidence was old or taken out of context. Pictures of human cities were shown from angles that made them look ugly and destructive. Trade data was presented without showing how human colonies had actually increased trade in their regions. When Dr. Kim tried to present humanity's side of the story, the council members seemed bored or distracted. They dismissed his evidence without really looking at it. When he showed holographic records of human colonies helping other species, Thexmoran said it was irrelevant to the charges. During a break in the proceedings, Dr. Kim met quietly with Ambassador Keto of the Minari, a small species that had also been pressured by the council in recent years. They did the same thing to us, Keto whispered, demanded we give up our best mining worlds, said we were expanding too fast and disrupting galactic stability. What did you do? Dr. Kim asked. We gave them what they wanted, Keto said sadly. We didn't have the strength to fight, but we've regretted it ever since. Those worlds now serve council interests, not ours. Dr. Kim learned that the Minari weren't the only ones. The Spiral Dancers had lost their research stations. The free traders of Rigel had been forced to give up their most profitable trade routes. Any species that became too successful found themselves facing council review. Meanwhile, Engineer Sola had been studying the technology in the council chamber. What she found surprised her. Despite their claims of ancient wisdom and advanced civilization, much of the council's technology was actually quite old and inefficient. Their computers are at least 50 years behind ours, she told Dr. Kim during another break. Their power systems waste enormous amounts of energy. Even their translation devices are primitive. That's why your words keep coming out wrong. But how is that possible? Dr. Kim asked. They've controlled the galaxy for thousands of years. Maybe that's the problem, Sola said. When you're in control for so long, you stop trying to improve. You just maintain what you have. When the trial resumed, Dr. Kim found himself facing the final judgment. Thexmoran spoke for the council. The evidence is clear, the ancient being announced. Humanity has exceeded all acceptable parameters for a species of its age and development. You have expanded too quickly, developed too rapidly, and disrupted too many established systems. Therefore, Zilnara added, humanity must surrender administrative control of 7 star systems to the Galactic Council within 1 standard year. These systems will be managed by more experienced species for the good of galactic stability. Dr. Kim felt anger burning in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. And if humanity refuses this judgment? Gorthak's voice shook the chamber. Then the council will take enforcement action to protect galactic peace and order. The list of systems appeared on the chamber's displays. New Busan, Kepler 442, Titan's Hope, New Sol, and 3 others, all of humanity's most valuable and strategic worlds. Dr. Kim looked around the chamber at the alien faces staring down at him. Some looked satisfied, others bored. A few even seemed uncomfortable with what was happening, but none of them spoke against the judgment. On behalf of humanity, Dr. Kim said clearly, I formally reject this ruling. The star systems in question were empty when humans found them. We built everything there with our own hands and our own resources. We have harmed no one and helped many. We will not abandon our people to satisfy the council's greed. The chamber erupted in angry sounds from dozens of different species. Thexmoran raised his tentacles for silence. Your refusal is noted, he said coldly. You have 1 year to reconsider. After that, the council will act. As Dr. Kim left the chamber, he felt the weight of what had just happened. Humanity was now officially an enemy of the most powerful organization in the galaxy. But as he walked through the corridors of Nexus Prime, he also felt something else: determination. The Council thought they could bully humanity like they had bullied others. They were about to learn that humans were different. They didn't surrender their homes to threats, no matter how powerful the enemy seemed to be. On the ship back to human space, Dr. Kim sent a message to Earth Command. "The Council wants our best worlds," he reported. "We said no. Now we prepare for war." The news of the Council's ultimatum spread through human space like wildfire. On every world, in every station, in every ship, people heard the same message: surrender your homes or face the combined might of the galaxy's oldest and most powerful species. On New Sol, Governor Dae Ho-yoon stood in his office looking out at the city below. The industrial world was humanity's largest manufacturing center, producing everything from farming equipment to starship engines. Now those factories would have to make weapons of war. "How long do we have?" asked Factory Supervisor Yoon Jung, who had come to discuss the conversion of the civilian production lines. 11 months, Dae Ho replied. 11 months to build enough ships and weapons to fight species that have been around for thousands of years. "Then we better get started," Yoon Jung said simply. She had been born on New Sol and raised her children there. The thought of alien species taking over her world made her angry. "What do you need?" Within days, New Sol's factories were working around the clock. Civilian workers volunteered for extra shifts. Engineering students dropped out of school to work on weapon designs. Even children helped by carrying supplies and running messages. On Earth, Admiral Yoon Ji-nam stood in the command center of Luna Base, watching displays that showed ship movements across human space. The Solar Defense Fleet was humanity's main military force, but it had been designed to fight pirates and small conflicts, not a galactic war. "How many ships can we field?" asked General Sang-wook, the head of Earth's ground forces. 300 combat-ready vessels, Admiral Nam replied, plus about 200 civilian ships that could be armed and armored. "Against the Council's thousands of ships, it's not much. Quality over quantity," General Sang-wook said. "Our ships are newer and faster. Our weapons are more accurate. Our crews are better trained." "Let's hope that's enough," Admiral Nam said. But she didn't sound confident. On the frontier colony of Hope's Landing, Farmer Taemin gathered his neighbors in the community center. The small world had only 50,000 people, mostly families who had come to build new lives on the edge of human space. "They want us to leave," Taemin told the crowd. "Pack up everything we've built over the last 20 years and go somewhere else." "Where would we go?" asked his neighbor Young Mi. "This is our home. Our children were born here." "I know," Taemin said. "That's why we're not leaving." The colonists spent the evening making plans. They would hide the children and elderly in the underground shelters they had built for storm protection. The adults would help defend the colony with hunting rifles and farming equipment turned into weapons. It wasn't much against a galactic invasion force, but it was what they could do. Back on Nexus Prime, Dr. Minho Kim had decided to stay and gather intelligence. He lived in the human embassy, a small building in the diplomatic quarter, and spent his days meeting with representatives from other species. Many of them were afraid to talk openly, but in private conversations, Dr. Kim learned disturbing things about the Council's rule. The Spiral Dancers told him how the Council had taken their best scientists and forced them to work on Council projects. The Rigel traders described how their profitable trade routes had been given to Council-favored species. "It's not about law or order," explained Ambassador Keto of the Minari. "It's about control. The Council species are old and tired. They haven't had a new idea in centuries, but they can't stand to see younger species succeed where they have failed." Dr. Kim also learned about resistance movements throughout the galaxy. On dozens of worlds, species that had been conquered or controlled by the Council were secretly planning rebellions. They lacked the strength to act alone, but if someone gave them hope, they might fight. Meanwhile, Engineer Sola had made an important discovery. The technology gap between humans and the Council wasn't what everyone believed. In fact, human technology was superior in many ways. "Look at this," she showed Captain Ji-won on the bridge of the Taeguk. "Our power systems are 30% more efficient than standard Council designs. Our computers process information faster. Our weapons have better targeting systems. But they have thousands of ships, Jiwon pointed out. Old ships, Sola said. Ships built using designs that haven't changed in hundreds of years. They're bigger and more powerful, but they're also slower and less accurate. And their communication systems are terrible. It takes hours for orders to travel across their fleets. This gave Jiwon an idea. She contacted Admiral Nam on Earth and proposed a secret project. If human technology was really superior, maybe they could build something that would give them an advantage. On Earth, President Sun Hee-han faced the most difficult decision in human history. The Council's demands had arrived officially, along with detailed lists of what humanity would have to surrender. Not just the 7 star systems, but all the people, equipment, and resources on those worlds. 30 million people, she told her cabinet. That's how many humans live in the systems they want. Are we supposed to abandon them? The alternative is war against the entire galaxy, said Defense Minister Haiwan. We might not survive. But if we surrender now, what's to stop them from demanding more later? Asked Foreign Minister Bora. Today it's 7 systems. Next year it might be 20. President Han thought about the reports coming in from across human space. Factories working overtime to build weapons. Colonies preparing to defend themselves. Young people volunteering for military service. Farmers learning to use weapons. Families making plans to protect their children. The Council thinks we're just another young species that will submit when threatened, she said finally. They're wrong. Humans have never surrendered to bullies, whether they lived in the next village or on distant stars. She made her decision. Send a message to every human world and station. We will not surrender our people to alien control. We will defend our homes and our freedom, whatever the cost. The message went out across human space, carried by the fastest ships and the most advanced communication systems. On every world, people heard their president's words and felt their resolve strengthen. But the president also authorized a secret mission. A small team of engineers and scientists, led by engineer Sola, would work on a project that could change everything. If human technology was really superior to Council technology, maybe they could prove it in a way that would shock the galaxy. 3 months after the Council's ultimatum, the first Council fleet appeared on the edge of human space. 6 different species had contributed ships to the force. Massive vessels armed with weapons that could destroy cities and crewed by beings who had fought wars for centuries. Did Admiral Tae-seok Ryu commanded the Human Defense Force at Kepler 442, the system with the valuable quantum crystals. His fleet was smaller and his ships were newer, but he had advantages the Council didn't expect. Remember, he told his captains over the communication system, they think we're primitive barbarians who got lucky with a few technological advances. Let's show them how wrong they are. The Council fleet, confident and slow, expecting an easy victory. They were about to get their first lesson in human determination and human innovation. In the depths of space, the secret project neared completion. Soon the galaxy would see what happened when humans refused to surrender. The Council fleet arrived at Kepler 442 like a storm of metal and energy. 200 ships from 6 different species, their weapons charged and their commanders confident. They expected to find a small human force that would surrender quickly when faced with overwhelming power. Instead, they found Admiral Tae-seok Ryu waiting for them, with 60 human ships arranged in a defensive formation around the mining stations. The human vessels looked tiny compared to the massive Council ships, but Tae-seok had learned not to judge by size alone. This is Fleet Commander Vextaran of the Council Enforcement Division, came the transmission from the largest enemy ship. Surrender immediately and your people will be relocated safely. Resist and face destruction. Tae-seok activated his communication system. This is Admiral Ryu of the Human Defense Force. These are human systems defended by human ships, and we don't surrender to bullies. If you want to fight, you'll get one. The Council fleet moved forward, their massive ships advancing in the traditional formation they had used for centuries. Heavy cruisers in front, support vessels behind, fighters screening the flanks. It was a proven tactic that had conquered dozens of species. But humans had studied those old battles and learned from them. All ships, Tae-seok commanded. Execute Plan Delta. The human fleet suddenly scattered, breaking apart like a school of fish avoiding a predator. Some ships dove below the plane of battle, others climbed above it, and a few seemed to retreat toward the asteroid belt. The Council commanders were confused. This wasn't how space battles worked. Fleets were supposed to advance in formation and trade fire until one side surrendered or was destroyed. Pursue them. Vexteron ordered. Don't let them escape, but the humans weren't escaping. They were setting a trap. Captain Bora Song commanded the destroyer Sejong, one of the smallest ships in the human fleet. Her vessel was fast and heavily armed for its size, designed to hunt pirates and raiders. Now she had bigger prey. Target the lead council cruiser, she told her weapons officer. Wait for my signal. The Sejong and 5 other destroyers had hidden in the shadow of a large asteroid. As the council ships spread out to pursue the scattered human forces, they exposed their flanks to attack. Now, Bora said quietly. The human destroyers emerged from hiding and struck like lightning. Their weapons were smaller than the council's massive guns, but they were much more accurate. Precise shots disabled the enemy's shield generators and weapon systems, while the larger ships were still trying to turn and fight back. The lead council cruiser, a massive vessel from the hegemony species, found itself crippled and defenseless in a matter of minutes. 2 more enemy ships suffered the same fate before the council fleet could react. Impossible, Vexteron muttered as he watched his proud ships being torn apart by opponents they should have crushed easily. But the real surprise was yet to come. A new ship dropped out of hyperspace near the edge of the system. It was smaller than a cruiser but larger than a destroyer, and it looked different from any human vessel the council had seen before. Smooth lines and unusual energy signatures marked it as something special. This is Captain Wu Jin Beck of the experimental ship New Horizon, came the transmission. Admiral Ryu, we're ready to test the new systems. Taesok smiled grimly. The secret project was about to reveal itself. The New Horizon began transmitting on frequencies the Council had never seen before. Instantly, every human ship in the system received real-time tactical data. They could see exactly where every enemy vessel was, what weapons they carried, and even what their commanders were planning. But more importantly, the transmission reached beyond Kepler 442. Across human space, other fleets received the same information and began coordinating their attacks. In the Titan's Hope system, Captain Minsu Park used the new data to position his ships perfectly for an ambush. In the new Busan system, Commander Heejin Lee launched a surprise attack that caught the Council fleet completely off guard. For the first time in galactic history, military forces could coordinate their actions across multiple star systems in real time. The rigid Council command structure, dependent on slow communications and bureaucratic approval, couldn't adapt fast enough. On Nexus Prime, Dr. Minho Kim watched the battle reports coming in with growing excitement. But he was also busy with another project. The communication system that connected human fleets could also carry other types of data. Engineer Choi, he said to Sola, who had stayed behind to help with the intelligence mission. Can your system broadcast to civilian populations as well as military units? Of course, Sola replied. Why? Because it's time to tell the galaxy the truth about the Council. Dr. Kim began broadcasting from Nexus Prime itself, using the Council's own communication networks enhanced by human technology. His signal bypassed all the censorship systems and reached oppressed species throughout the galaxy. People of the galaxy, he said, his words translated into hundreds of languages. You have been told that the Council species are ancient and wise, that they have the right to rule because they are superior to younger species. This is a lie. He showed evidence that Sola had gathered about Council technology, proof that their supposedly advanced systems were actually outdated and inefficient. He revealed how they had stolen technology from extinct civilizations and claimed it as their own. He exposed their corruption and their oppression of smaller species. But most importantly, he showed them the battles happening in human space. Small human fleets defeating much larger Council forces through innovation and determination. Proof that the mighty Council could be beaten. On dozens of worlds, oppressed species heard Dr. Kim's words and felt hope for the first time in generations. The Minari began sabotaging Council facilities. The Spiral Dancers started a rebellion on their homeworld. The Free Traders of Rigel attacked Council shipping convoys. Back at Kepler 442, the battle was turning into a disaster for the Council fleet. Half their ships were disabled or destroyed, while the humans had lost only 3 vessels. The survivors began to retreat, something Council fleets had rarely done in their long history. But as they fled, Vexteron sent a message that chilled the human commanders. You have won this battle, the Council commander transmitted, but you have also sealed your fate. The full might of the Council will fall upon your homeworld. Earth will burn for your defiance. Admiral Ryu knew the threat was real. The Council had thousands of ships and billions of warriors. The battles in human space had been victories, but small ones. When the Council assembled their full strength, even human innovation might not be enough. But as he watched the enemy ships jump to hyperspace, Tae-seok felt proud of what his people had accomplished. They had proven that the Council wasn't invincible. They had shown the galaxy that humans wouldn't surrender to threats, and most importantly, they had given hope to oppressed species throughout the galaxy. The rebellion Dr. Kim had started with his broadcast was spreading faster than the Council could contain it. All ships, Tae-seok commanded, set course for Earth. If they want to attack our homeworld, they'll have to go through every human in the galaxy to do it. The human fleet began moving toward the Sol system, ready to defend the planet where their species had begun its journey to the stars. Behind them, the quantum crystals of Kepler 442 continued to shine. Still in human hands despite the Council's demands, the first battle was over, but the war for humanity's freedom was just beginning. 6 months after the Battle of Kepler 442, the largest military force in galactic history gathered at the edge of Council space. 10,000 ships from 40 different species, all united under the ancient banners of the Galactic Council. Their target was Earth, the homeworld of the humans who had dared to defy galactic order. Admiral Yoonji Nam stood in the command center of Luna Base, watching the tactical displays that showed the approaching enemy fleet. The numbers were terrifying. More ships than humanity had ever faced, crewed by species with centuries of military experience. "How many ships do we have?" asked General Sang-wook, who had arrived from Earth to coordinate the defense. 800 combat vessels, Admiral Nam replied, plus about 300 civilian ships that have been armed and armored. Every human in the galaxy who could hold a weapon has volunteered to defend Earth. The solar system had been transformed into a fortress. The asteroid belt bristled with weapon platforms and sensor arrays. Mars served as a massive staging area for the human fleet. Luna hosted the largest shipyard humanity had ever built, working day and night to produce new vessels. But the real changes were happening throughout the galaxy. Dr. Min-ho Kim's broadcasts from Nexus Prime had sparked rebellions on dozens of worlds. The Minari Uprising had liberated 3 star systems. The Spiral Dancer Revolution had overthrown council governors on their homeworld. Even small species that had been oppressed for centuries were fighting back. The council was facing something they had never experienced before, a galaxy-wide rebellion against their authority. On Earth, President Sun Hee-han addressed the planet from the Global Defense Center in Geneva. Her words were broadcast not just to humanity, but to every species in the galaxy. "Today we stand at a crossroads," she said. "The Council demands that we surrender our freedom, our homes, and our future to maintain their control over the galaxy. They believe that age gives them the right to rule, that power justifies oppression. They are wrong," she continued. "Freedom is not something to be granted by ancient species to younger ones. It is the birthright of every intelligent being in the universe. Today we defend not just Earth, but the principle that no species has the right to dominate another." Captain Ji-won Park listened to the president's speech from the bridge of the UES Taeguk, now serving as the flagship of the Outer System Defense Force. Her ship had been upgraded with the latest human technology, including the revolutionary communication system that allowed real-time coordination across vast distances. "Captain," reported Communications Officer Daeho, "we're getting signals from rebel forces throughout the galaxy. The Council is having to split their attention between attacking us and fighting rebellions on their own worlds." Engineer Sola, now serving as the Chief Technology Officer for the entire defense fleet, had spent months preparing for this moment. Human ships carried new weapons designed specifically to fight Council vessels. Their shields could adapt to enemy fire. Their computers could outthink enemy targeting systems. The Council fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system like a metal storm. Ancient species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia, all united in their determination to crush human defiance. Their massive ships carried weapons that could crack planets and shields that had protected them through countless wars. But they also carried the arrogance of species that had grown used to easy victories. "This is Supreme Commander Thex Moran," came the transmission from the largest council ship. "Surrender now and your species will be allowed to survive in designated reservations. Continue to resist and Earth will be reduced to ash. Admiral Nam activated the communication system that connected every human ship in the system. This is Admiral Nam of the Human Defense Force. We have one message for the Galactic Council. Humanity does not surrender to tyrants. If you want our world, come and take it. The battle began with the Council fleet advancing in their traditional formation. Massive dreadnoughts led the way, their heavy weapons charging for a devastating first strike. Behind them came cruisers and destroyers, ready to finish off whatever survived the initial bombardment. They expected the human fleet to meet them in conventional battle formation. Instead, the humans seemed to scatter like frightened animals. But this was no retreat. This was a new kind of warfare. Captain Haewon Lee piloted her fighter through the asteroid belt, leading a squadron of the newest human interceptors. These small, fast ships had been designed using technology learned from studying captured Council vessels. They were invisible to most enemy sensors and could strike without warning. Target the command ship's communication array, she told her squadron. Take out their ability to coordinate and the whole fleet becomes vulnerable. The human fighters struck like ghosts, appearing from behind asteroids to disable key systems before vanishing again. The massive Council ships tried to swat them like insects, but their heavy weapons were too slow and their targeting systems too outdated. Meanwhile, Captain Wu Jin Beck and the experimental ship New Horizon had positioned themselves near Jupiter. The ship's revolutionary communication system was doing more than just coordinating human forces. It was jamming Council communications and feeding false information to their computers. Enemy fleet is breaking up into smaller groups, reported his sensor officer. They can't coordinate their attacks. But the real surprise came when the Council thought they had broken through human defenses and were approaching Earth itself. Suddenly, ships began appearing from hyperspace all around them, not just human vessels but rebel forces from across the galaxy. The Minari had sent their fastest ships. The Spiral Dancers contributed their most advanced fighters. Even species that had been neutral in the conflict sent volunteers to fight against Council oppression. This is Ambassador Keto of the Free Minari Republic, came a transmission that reached both fleets. The age of Council domination is over. Today we fight for the freedom of all species. The battle that followed would be remembered as the greatest space conflict in galactic history. Thousands of ships fought among the planets and moons of the solar system, their weapons lighting up space like artificial stars. But it wasn't just superior technology that won the battle for humanity and their allies. It was something the Council had forgotten during their long centuries of easy dominance: the power of fighting for something you believe in. Young pilot Haewon Lee became a legend when she flew her damaged fighter directly into the shield generator of the Council flagship, disabling the massive ship's defenses. Engineer Sola's adaptive systems allowed human ships to learn from each enemy attack and become stronger. Ground Commander Sang-wook coordinated Earth's surface defenses when Council forces tried to land invasion troops. The turning point came when Dr. Kim, still broadcasting from Nexus Prime, managed to hack into the Council's own communication network. Suddenly, every species in the galaxy could see the battle happening at Earth, and they could see the Council forces being defeated by species they had dismissed as inferior. More rebellions erupted across the galaxy. Council governors found themselves besieged on their own worlds. Ancient species that had never questioned their right to rule suddenly faced populations that demanded freedom. Supreme Commander Thex Moran, watching his fleet being torn apart by enemies who should have been helpless, finally understood what humanity represented. They weren't just another young species to be controlled. They were proof that the old order could be challenged and defeated. All Council forces, he transmitted, withdraw to designated safe zones. The engagement is terminated. But the battle was already over. Half the Council fleet was destroyed or disabled. The survivors fled toward the edge of the system, their 1,000-year dominance shattered in a single day. 1 year later, Dr. Minho Kim stood in the same chamber where humanity had once been judged and condemned. But now it was called the Galactic Federation Assembly, and he was helping to write a new charter based on equality rather than domination. Captain Ji-won Park, now an admiral, oversaw the peaceful evacuation of die-hard Council loyalists to a distant system where they could build whatever society they chose. She made sure they were treated fairly. Humanity had not fought to become oppressors themselves. President Sun Hee, Han's final speech to the galaxy was broadcast from Earth to every inhabited world. Today we didn't just defend our territory. We defended the right of every species to determine its own destiny among the stars. The age of empires is over. The age of freedom has begun. On countless worlds, beings that had lived under council rule for generations breathed free air for the first time. Children of a dozen species played together in the ruins of ancient prisons. Former slaves became citizens of new republics. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had not conquered it, they had liberated it. And in doing so, they had proven that no matter how old or powerful a tyranny might be, it could still be defeated by those brave enough to stand up and say no. In the depths of space, human ships continued their journey to new stars, carrying with them the message that had changed everything. Freedom is not given by the powerful to the weak. It is taken by the brave from those who would deny it. The Council's territory was now humanity's territory, not through conquest but through the will of free beings choosing their own destiny among the infinite stars.